happen? Like, can you give me the backstory?
Yeah,
Tell
of
me
course.
about.
I started kindergarten early. I skipped a grade.
Yeah,
Um, so I was a couple years ahead. Then my parents just didn't want me to skip more grades, so I stopped skipping grades. So I graduated high school a little early. I was 16. I took a lot of APs in high school. So I started as a junior, finished college in 3 years, so 19, and then went straight to law school, 3 more years there. So it's 22.
yeah. So let's talk more about law school. What
Sure.
motivated you to go out to law school, to become a lawyer, to pursue this career?
So my grandfather was a judge in Iran. It's something that I always wanted to do. I was always kind of a fighter in
Yeah,
this world. There's lovers and there's fighters. I was always a fighter. So um,
yeah,
it was just it was just in my blood. It's something that I enjoy. I like to tell people. I mean, there's different types of lawyers. Not everyone fights, but if you want to be a litigator, you really got to kind of enjoy that adversarial process. Some people like it, some people don't,
yeah, yeah.
and I really
That's
enjoy it.
amazing. Yeah. You graduated at the age of 22 and started working for the big boys like O'Melveny and Mayers, the big
Yes.
corporate firms. Can you tell me more about that, being the young lawyer there? Yeah,
Yeah, so the way law school works is you work during your summers, as a summer associate or an intern, and if they like you, they extend you an offer. So my first summer, I worked for this big firm called Gibson, Dunn and Crutcher. My second summer, actually, my partner Alan recruited me to O'Melveny and Myers. Those are at the time, and there still are two of the three big firms in LA. The other one being Latham and Watkins. There's other huge firms, but those are the three of the big firms that are based out of LA. And it was really kind of just the path of least resistance. They come to law school, they recruit aggressively, they wine and dine you. Um, and, it was a good experience, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. So, you know,
so
I kind of
I've
moved on.
heard yeah, I've heard a lot on your interviews that you've always wanted to be. You didn't want to be that defense attorney who just defends the big corporate corporations.
Yes.
You wanted to play this offense style, the prosecution style. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah. So, obviously in the courtroom, there's an offense side and the defense, right?
Yeah,
So when you're in a defensive position, usually you're billing hourly. Um, you're trying to defend the case against someone that's suing you, someone that's prosecuting you. Um, Again, some people like it. I really prefer being on offense. I like having control over my litigation, whether it's as a prosecutor or as a civil plaintiff's attorney. And obviously, as a prosecutor, you don't have a client. Your client is the people or the government. But really, as a civil plaintiff's attorney, you have a lot more control because you're not dealing with financial constraints. You're working on a contingency usually, which is a percentage. Most of the time, you're fronting the costs, advancing them on behalf of the client. Whereas on the defense side, clients are paying for costs, they're paying hourly. So there's just more financial concerns that prevent you from potentially being as aggressive as you want to be.
yeah, I get that. So my other question is, you're obviously the co-founder of West Coast Trial Lawyers. Can you tell
Yes.
me how challenging was that to fuel a new firm, to start a new firm with your co-founder, Alan?
Yeah, I would say it was challenging because, even though I'd been practicing for a while and I really knew the practice of law, I'd tried many cases. I really had to learn the business side of things when I started the firm because, when you're working for a big corporate firm like O'Melveny and Myers, they have institutional clients they've had for many, many, many years, decades, sometimes even 100 years.
Yeah,
Um, and that obviously changes when you come to represent ordinary people. It's uncommon for someone to be, seriously injured more than once in their life, for someone to be sexually harassed, discriminated against, wrongfully terminated. So you're constantly having to find new clients. And it's a pretty competitive field. Half the billboards you probably see are, personal injury lawyers. So, uh, it really, not to say I had to start over, but I had to learn the business that I just previously hadn't had to do before.
yeah. So obviously it was challenging, but you obviously
Yes.
succeeded on that side.
Yeah,
And I
it's
want
been
to
good
ask
so
you
far.
more about
Yeah.
the when bringing new employees, new lawyers, like attracting the new talent from law school. Like, how do you work, or what do you search for in the new lawyers, new personal injury expertise, and etc.
Yeah, it has to be someone that is willing to just really buy into what we're trying to do. Again, it's different on the defense side because, oftentimes there's dozens of lawyers working on a case on behalf of a big client. If one leaves, um, the case doesn't fall apart, right? There's someone that's going to step in and start billing. But on our side, there's usually one lawyer or two lawyers, so it's pretty disruptive for clients. Many of whom it's the first time they're ever even talking to a lawyer. So when someone leaves, it's disruptive for the firm, it's disruptive for the client, the case. So, I want someone that is going to kind of believe in the long-term vision of the firm. People that are sort of short-sighted, it just doesn't make sense to come here because really, in terms of value to the firm, in terms of financial compensation to the attorney, it really comes when they're here and they're working on cases because it takes years for us to resolve these cases sometimes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I want to ask you about case settlements against going to court. Obviously, you do settle cases perfectly, professionally, but I want to ask you, how do you weigh going to court against settling the case in your firm?
No, it's an art. It's not a science. It's impossible to know what 12 jurors are going to do.
Yeah,
You can kind of get a range, and we focus group when we do these types of things, but there's really no guarantee. So a lot of it depends on what we think the value of the case is. If we push the case to trial, um, obviously there's risk. Some clients are more risk averse. They don't want to take that risk because even we win a lot of our cases, but even we lose once in a while. I mean, that happens.
yeah,
So a lot of it's kind of the client's tolerance for risk, costs. Cost money. There's court cost. There's cost of expert witnesses. In these types of cases that increase. I mean, there's time too, right? When you file now in, for instance, LA County, trials are generally being put out in like 18 to 24 months. So, there is value in a settlement today versus a payout years down the road. So there's no right answer. It's just a variety of circumstances. And then the case itself, there's certain cases that may be challenging from a liability perspective or from a damages perspective, or even if liability and damages are great, you may never be able to collect if there's collections issues, there's no coverage, someone is likely going to file bankruptcy. So there's a lot of factors. It's just hard to answer. You do your analysis, you present it to the client, and ultimately, it's his or her decision whether to proceed. We'll make a recommendation, of course.
yeah, yeah, of course. Um, my other question is about your advertisement methods for your firm. Do you like prefer going to the digital side or, for example, advertising on billboards, things like that? What is your go-to method when taking
So
this
our go-to
approach?
is digital. When Alan approached me to start the firm, I have a lot of friends that were in this space. Some of them have been doing TV, radio, billboards for decades. We were new to the space, even though we weren't new lawyers. We decided to go in a different direction, to not sort of jump into something that's pretty saturated. And again, these are my friends, but they're pretty entrenched in this space. Digital was still emerging, so all of our marketing is digital, whether it's social media or Google or whatever the case may be. 100% digital.
Yeah, yeah. So I believe like, do you believe like this is the way to go for new firms, digital, because everything is turning digital and that's the way?
Yeah, I like it. It's probably a longer conversation in terms of marketing, but personally, I like it. It can be more expensive. Some of the traditional forms of advertising because it's so competitive, but I prefer it. I like it. I believe it's the future. Lots of folks are cutting the cord. Billboards just if you put up a billboard, 99% of people driving by that billboard may never need your services. But digital can really kind of target people that might actually need an attorney. So personally, I like it. We've had success. I know some other firms prefer other types of advertising. Some don't advertise at all and just rely on referrals. We like to be aggressive in terms of growth and so forth. So I like the digital route. It's worked for us.
Yeah, so 100%. So I have just one last question for you.
Of course, absolutely.
As a lawyer and and a person in the legal field, I just want to ask you about your opinion on the political climate right now in the USA. What do you think is the next step? Elections, the confirmation of Judge Coney Barrett. Yeah,
Um, like from a personal perspective, I'm very liberal.
yeah,
So I mean, you can probably guess how I feel about,
yeah,
the presidency, how I feel about, look, Judge Barrett, she's qualified.
yeah,
But, there are political issues with, her nomination and her confirmation based on what happened 4 years ago. I understand the distinction who controls the Senate, but the Supreme Court's very important. There's a lot of big issues on the ballot, like abortion,
ACA,
healthcare,
etc.
yeah. So exactly, Affordable Care Act, gun control. So it's challenging when you're a liberal and you're looking at a court that has a 6-3 conservative majority. So,
Yeah,
um, but yeah, I mean, I definitely have strong feelings on that, like most people do. But even within our firm, plaintiffs' attorneys tend to be more liberal. We're representing, the little
yeah,
guy against the corporation. Even within our firm, we have attorneys and senior staff that are conservative. We have about 100 employees, so you're going to get all types.
yeah. That's great. I want to really thank you again.
Of
It's really an
course.
honor. I've always wanted to do this with you. I've always followed your firm. So thank you so much
Oh,
for
of
this
course.
opportunity.
No, of course. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, thank you,
All right. Thanks. Baby. Have a good one. Bye now.
thank you.